This guitar, the Selmer guitar, was designed by a luthier by the name of Mario Macaferri, but his first calling in life, he was a classical guitarist. He was in fact such a classical guitarist of renown that at the time in the 1930s he was in direct competition with Andres Segovia before he had an accident, and I believe he broke his wrist in trying to be some kind of an actor in a French movie. So when he decided to design those guitars, and that goes back to the twinning in fact, because I believe the first prototype were made in 1928, what he was trying to do, he was trying to build a steel string guitar that would be loud enough and cutting enough to cut through the orchestra. At the time nobody had amplification, so you needed something powerful enough. So basically if you look at the early design of the late 20s and the early 30s, if you really look at the original Macaferri, the one that has a D hole and the short scale, and the angle of the top, he was trying to build a gigantic mandolin, actually. That's what he had in mind. I'm very convinced of that. Of course, maybe I'm going a little too far because it was a guitar, but the fact that that guitar was so loud, built so light, and was so cutting, the treble was so cutting, it really, really is akin to a very, very, very big mandolin. Now the difference between this guitar, by the way, these guitars in the 1930s were the most expensive guitars of their time, bar none, even in Europe, even including the import from America. The reason is because many of the designs of this guitar was really revolutionary. Like Mario Macaferri invented the enclosed tuners for these specific guitars. He also was a pioneer in the long scale on that type of guitar. The arch of the top, the angle of the top, the bracing, the design of the massage, the tailpiece, everything was really unheard of at the time. It was this guitar came out first shot the way it is today. There was no improvement, except for the fact that he designed the D hole with a short scale. When he left the company, when he left the Selmer company, Selmer went to a longer scale, 14 fret to the body, and an overhaul. But basically the design is still the same. He also introduced a 0 fret in guitar construction, which is better for the intonation of the guitar. Also a movable bridge, which is also better for the intonation of the guitar. And the voice of these guitars is really, really related closely to the dome, the shape of the top, as well as the bracing. He also decided to build the back and side with laminated rosewood instead of solid wood. At the time, that was a complete revolution. Now, he did that not trying to save any money in the wood, because in the 30s, there had no incidence on the cost of building a guitar. But he believed that the guitar would be lighter and also more stable. He had a lot of experience with classical guitar, and then at the time, the back and side probably were not that stable. Especially, they were building a lot with Brazilian rosewood, which had a tendency to crack. So that was something else that he introduced to the steel string construction. The gauge of the strings also is more akin to a classical guitar than it is to a steel string. They are very light. The construction of this string by itself is also deserve a little paragraph there. They silver plated copper wound on a very, very small core, giving it a very high ratio, core to winding, and that's how you get that sound. Those shimmering treble, those very dry mid-range and basses. That's part of the sound of that guitar. So that's it. That's a lot of difference. The cutaway also, very, very characteristic of these guitars. All these make this guitar totally different between a flat top and an arch top. In fact, if you need to make a parallel, and I'm going to steal this from one of my friendly competitors here, Maurice Dupont said once that if you look at a triangle, and at one end you would have a flat top, at the other end you would have an arch top. Well, the other end, the natural, would be a Selmer Macaferri guitar. The sound is in between, actually. So that's what's so unique about the construction of these guitars.